Wednesday.
Welcome Wednesday.
Welcome Wednesday. Look at me getting my life together. So it is Wednesday. This is season 2, episode 5 of The Conversation, a podcast featuring a lively discussion with chefs of color and our industry advocates who are blazing trails, changing narratives, and shaking it up. Guess what this month is?
I know. Do you know?
Yes, I know.
I know. So it's Women's History Month.
And like Black History, we shouldn't need a special month to celebrate the accomplishments of women. However, we do, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm super excited about it. So before we get into our conversation, I do need to remind everybody that ACF elections start 4/26. It's March. We all said that we were going to pay our dues and make sure that we were in good standing with the ACF before the end of next week. So friends, family, you have until the end of next week to make sure that you are financial so that we can vote for our girl, Chef Kimberly Brock Brown, for ACF president. I just wanted to mention that. How are you?
I'm good. I am very, very, very good.
You've been taking it easy. I'm kind of jealous.
I'm really not. I mean, and early in the day, I have tons of meetings, and then I go into the kitchen, but by 3 o'clock, I'm done.
Girl, I'm glued to my laptop like I don't know what my problem is, to the point where I run the battery down and then charge it back up and then get right back on it and run the battery down. But that's okay because I'm working on stuff and I got a lot of fun stuff coming up and I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
So what else I'm excited about?
Tell me about your
weekend. What did I do? Did I sprain my ankle? No, that was the previous weekend. Oh, this weekend I did a pop-up brunch.
And how was it?
It was fun. It was fun. They, you know what? I have to give it up to the KC Daiquiri shop. Number one, for respecting my boundaries and making sure that it was all carry out. Everybody was wearing masks. You know, I felt completely safe, and I appreciate them for understanding, you know, my stance on that. Number two, you know, their staff did a really good job of handling the Chef Shanita people who come out and can be quite demanding, especially since I decided to, on a humbug, sell peach tea. So, you know, that turned into a situation.
God.
So but that's okay.
That's what happened.
What?
I got my first shot for the vaccination.
Yay! Because you're down there in Florida land, so you
I'm waiting on that second one. Because then I'm gone. I'm out.
But she's out of here. So let's talk about. We're kicking it off with our girl, Chef Tiffany Derry, which her and I just went through a very traumatic situation, although hers was way more traumatic than mine. She was in Texas. I was filling for her right up here in Kansas City.
Right.
I did not have my power out, praise God, unless low key it's because I live in the white part of town and they was not about to cut off the power in the suburbs. Right. Anyways, other people in Kansas City were not so lucky and they had their power up, just like our family down in Texas. So let's bring Chef Tiffany in.
Woohoo! Hey, Chef. Hey, y'all. Welcome.
Thank you. Cozy in front of the fireplace.
Girl, you know, this is about the only place that I feel real comfortable. I'm like, oh, yes, this feels good.
You guys are thawing out now, aren't you?
Yes, I'm good now. We're good. You know, power's on, gas on, water. I mean, essentials are back and it feels good.
You know what? And Texans, if you guys want to be mad at somebody, you need to blame Ted Cruz because you don't tempt God like that. I'm pretty sure there was a tweet from about 4 or 5 years ago when he said he was going to believe in climate change when Texas froze over.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so many tweets. I mean, I won't even go down this rabbit hole with you on Ted Cruz and the rest of these people because...
But you made it and you survived. So I have some family in Texas. Some of them are near you and some of them are far from you. So I was making sure to share all of your posts and telling them if you guys need food, go over there. You guys were feeding people, which was amazing. It's always nice when our chef community comes out and we take care of our people because they take care of us. So it's nice.
They do all year round. You know, I was sitting at home and I was sitting at home with no power and I was just over it. I was over sitting in the dark and it was the light was going down outside and I was just over all of that, right? It was like, okay, I'm sitting here and I need to be doing something. And I remember I had got a good charge when the lights came on. And so I was browsing on Instagram, and my heart was going out to so many people. And I said, you know what? We're going to cook. We had checked on the refrigerators in the restaurant, and they had moved them to where the generator was. And so food was okay. And I was like, okay, well, let's just cook. Like, let's just feed people. There are people, and I know the power of a hot meal.
Yes.
Everything seems to be going wrong. I mean, it has some power. And so I said, let's do that, because the thing about it was, here it really didn't matter what neighborhood you lived in, honestly, because there are people who roofs was just caving in and water everywhere. And it had nothing to do with how much money you made, what kind of car you drove, what kind of, job you had. There was so much happening for everyone. So I figured everybody could appreciate that.
All the way here in Kansas City was, I saw on Instagram Tammy Roman just bawling, and I was like, oh Lord, showing a video of just the water just running down in her house. And I mean, I know that it's a stressful situation to deal with when you're right there, but I could not imagine being somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's
true too.
In my place, and I have like no control over what to do or how to fix it. So it was nice to see you guys all come together. But we're going to do a COVID check-in first, because I know you were like you had just started your concept or starting a concept, and then Aunt Rona came and showed out, and then she left in 2020, changed her wig, and came back in 2021 like, oh, and one more thing.
It's not over.
Yeah. Just like, oh, I just got a new wig. I'm not done yet. So tell us what's been up with you. What has Chef Tiffany been doing since the famed show? I know a lot.
Oh gosh. So I have Roots Chicken Shack here in Plano. That's sort of my baby. We are home of the duck fat fried chicken, and everything is fried in duck fat. Our fries are chicken. Even my salad, the breadcrumbs are in duck fat. So that Caesar is all the way right. That's what we do. It's a really small menu, 9 items. My mother's banana pudding, Kool-Aid, sweet tea, like super small. And then we have another location in Austin, inside of an HEB, the Mueller location. So we have a Roots Chicken Shack there, which opened in August, right in the smack dab of the pandemic, which we had put it off, and we're trying to figure it out. And at some point, you just got to go for it, right?
How was the reaction? How was the reaction in the middle of the pandemic to open up something new, even though it's not a new concept to you, but it's a new area and it's
a new market for sure. It was very different to open, right? All of the rules and things that you would normally do for an opening was out. We weren't bringing in crowds. In fact, we were taking orders through favor to different reporters and things like that, so that they can taste the food and talk about the food on air. So that was very, very different. And a lot more virtual kind of tastings, articles and things like that, but it was nothing like that big sort of splash that you get with the opening. But being inside of an HEB, that really helped. We had, HEB's the largest grocery store chain here in Texas, so there is an unbelievable amount of traffic that came through the door. So that really did help us. And so then we have Root Southern Table, which is the one you're talking about, Chef. She did this one here, this Southern Table. She's been coming for a while. She's still not here, but we're a little bit closer. So we were supposed to open last year. And of course, we pushed it back and tried to find the right timing, and ended up being able to renegotiate with the landlord, because, hopefully for everyone who is in the middle of anything or has been in the middle of anything during or, building, hopefully they've been able to renegotiate. And so we were able to do that, thankfully. And that really did help. And we were able to push that time back. And so we are now inching really closely. Today, all of my equipment came, so that was beautiful.
Isn't that, I just got a Facebook reminder of when I opened my restaurant in 2015, and the deep fryers came in, and I was like, "Oh, my twins!"
Yes. So,
There's
so the
nothing like
very
that
first
feeling.
shack, which I should have done it, but I didn't have the money, so I didn't get the automatic filtration system, right? So I'm
Right.
like, come on, I
Yeah.
should have did that, but I didn't. The second one, I got that filtration system, right? And then now I'm like, filtration system, yep, we're gonna do it now. From now on, that's what it is. So it's like funny
Awesome.
Put
things
it
you
in the
learn,
budget.
you know.
Put it in the budget, because what you're
So,
not going to be doing is standing there with a paper cone and a sifter trying to
right.
sift
Mm-mm.
grease.
So with this third concept, well, second concept, because the first two are the same concept. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit? Give us like a little flavor of it.
Yes. So Southern Table is really an ode to my Southern roots. So I
Yeah.
grew up in Beaumont, Texas, but my family's from Baton Rouge and Port Allen, Louisiana. My uncle had this amazing farm, and I grew up there, spending all my summers. I remember, playing outside, running through the greens. I remember walking in, and the back door he was also like the cool cup man, and like the store that everybody would go purchase stuff from, right? So he had all of these things, and he had a cupboard, and in the cupboard there was like pickled pig tails and pig feet and craziness, pickled eggs, all of that kind of stuff on there. And it's funny now that I'm thinking about it. There's so many different just memories that come from
Right.
that. And so, as I've grown as a chef from, the things I grew up eating to the things that I have now loved and enjoy eating, that's really what Root Southern Table is about, connecting sort of that farm to table, that thing that we didn't know was a thing. My uncle didn't know farm to table. We just ate from the farm. That's what
Yeah.
you did. It grow in the farm, you eat it. And so we're not going to make a big deal about it being farm to table. What we're going to talk about is just about it being great food. Some things like we have fried shrimp and grits, which is one of the things. My mother's gumbo. We have a down home roots, and
Yes.
then we have modern roots. And in the modern, we have like this beautiful sugar snap peas and this preserved lemon, a little bit of burrata, and then candy bacon and this salad. It's just beautiful and delicious. Jerk lamb chops, West African pork shank that has a peanut sauce. And so just different dishes probably than what most people think. I do not have mac and cheese on the menu. And so
Him.
Well,
Praise
can I ask, are you gonna have my favorite thing,
what's
which
that?
is chitlins?
So check this out. I love chitlins, right? You remember them, right?
Yes,
I
yes,
love
yes.
chitlins will be on the brunch menu at some point, but we're not going to open up with it. Yes, it will be there. And I'm just trying to figure out when and
I
where.
hear you.
You didn't even say it for the
She's
people.
not a chitlin
Chitlins will
person.
be there.
They are so good. I love them.
So yeah, so I'm doing, this is something that I've been wanting to do for 7 years. It's a concept that has changed slightly from what I wanted versus to like how much of the down home and how much of the modern. And so now it's become a little bit of both, which is great.
Well, I think that as Black female chefs, right, you get into this industry and then you learn, and then it's natural for you to start picking apart all of the things that you grew up eating and in your head, elevating and conceptualizing them. But there was a time in our industry where that food wasn't posh. It
Sure.
wasn't the thing to do. So it's just something that I think all of us kind of carried around in our soul, waiting for the right moment to let all that out. And
You're
so
right.
I'm glad, it's unfortunate that other people had to make it popular first, but I'm glad that we're now getting this stage and this platform to really talk about our way of life and things that our family, we grew up eating this way. This is not new to us.
Sure.
We're not new to this. We're true to this. This is new to y'all.
One of the dishes, because we've been playing and going back and forth, originally it was just going to be cornbread. And I did something, I think it was for one of our news stations for New Year's Eve, and I made hot water cornbread, and everyone went crazy about like hot water cornbread. I'm like, hot water cornbread, that's nothing. You just whip that up, boil water, pop that in there, fry that, and they were like, I've never had hot water cornbread. And I was like, oh. And so now I'm like, hot water cornbread is what's on the menu instead of the cornbread that we were originally going to do. And it's funny because we're now telling a story in a little bit of a different way, creating things that, was something that we just ate. Now everyone's like, wow, what is that? Yeah, I can't wait to try that. And then there's the other of like the ones who think they know what Southern is, and there are all of these misconceptions that it is just the fatty, the unhealthiest, nothing exciting about it, right? And so there's those barriers that we're breaking down.
So I want to talk about that because I was listening to a conversation with Ashanti Green, and she was talking about racial injustice and food access, right? And so she was saying that Southern food, particularly Black Southern food, is one of the few food or cultural foods or ethnic foods, as they call it, that is demonized, right? Like you can literally eat bugs in other cultures and people are like, oh my gosh, wow, that's amazing. But then here we are eating, greens or chitlins or ham hocks, and they're like, oh God, no. I mean, you literally just ate a cricket. Are you seriously going to like, really? Right. You're eating ants.
Right.
And so I love that, we as cultural chefs are in this space where we can take control of our narrative and kind of dispel some of those silly myths that our food is unhealthy. What's unhealthy is the commercialization of our food and not necessarily like the history of the food.
And I can tell you, we didn't eat, fried chicken every day. We didn't eat fried fish. No, we had fried fish on Fridays. But we didn't eat like all of the things that, like mac and cheese every week. In fact, we had the garden. So majority of our vegetables came from there. In fact, a lot of our food was more veggie and rice heavy more than it was meat heavy. Rice was just a part of me. I come from a really large family. So my grandmother had 11 children.
Too. So, make a pot of rice and put it in the fridge.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and they still laugh at me because I eat rice like a lot. Oh, a whole lot.
If I'm home alone with no kids and nobody, I'm either having a grilled cheese or a bowl of rice. Maybe cream of wheat. It's one
does anyone out of the three of us put butter and sugar on their rice?
And salt and pepper, all three at the same time, yes.
No, I'm more of a gravy girl, but I'll eat plain rice. Yeah. I'll eat plain rice. I'll eat rice with a little green onion, and then I'll throw a touch of soy sauce and a fried egg. I'm an equal opportunity for the rice.
So I also have to ask you, was there any special condiments on your family table? Because for me, with my grandparents and family, we always had like a bowl of sliced fresh tomatoes with, salt, pepper, a little bit of vinegar and sugar. We also had our fresh cucumbers, and then we also had a small little plate with sliced onions.
Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of that as well.
The table.
Sure. I remember always having something fresh to go with whatever we were eating, right? So there was some kind of fresh salad, some slaw of things going. And then in our family, they like peppers. So they would always have like pickled peppers or the vinegar and pepper sauce, right?
My grandfather's vinegar pepper would burn your nose hairs off. Okay, do not sniff that bottle. You will not be able to smell.
I loved every bit of it. I loved it.
Worse than bleach, girl. You'll be like, why do I smell spicy peppers? Oh, it's the remnants of that pepper vinegar.
Oh my gosh, it's still on you.
Yeah, and it's like, look, put that in the back of the refrigerator. Don't mess around with that, okay? That will mess you up.
Yeah, and then the green onion, like they would have those large green, like the fresh green onions pieces, and you just chop that up and add it to it. I mean, even to the point where sometimes when I make greens, I still will slice the onion on top of my greens and, dashes of some vinegar, dash of hot sauce.
Are you a cha-cha girl or a chow-chow girl?
Chow-chow.
You're a chow-chow. I'm a cha-cha.
Chow-chow.
It's like, what is it, pecan, pecans.
Right.
Pecans.
Tomato.
Right. But it's just so funny, our lingo, and just out of that tri-state area. I mean, she's in Kansas City. She grew up in Kansas City. I grew up in Illinois. You're out of Texas.
Right.
And Louisiana. And then my grandparents came out of Arkansas also. So it was just like, when you blend those together and just the food lingo is crazy.
Well, don't
Right.
tell the Kansas City people. They like to pretend like they're Midwesterners.
Oh,
I
okay.
have to remind them quite frequently that they're Southerners. But
Mm.
we'll just keep that amongst us here. Like, there were literally plantations over there. I just want to put that out there for you all. I know you want to be Midwestern. However, it's the South. Sorry.
I think too, that's the what I find quite interesting about Southern food. And this is one of those things that I learned along the way. I thought everyone ate like we ate, right? Growing up, I didn't realize that there was a difference in, Mississippi and Arkansas and the Carolinas and all of that. And so, as we learn more, it's great understanding sort of the differences
Yes.
with Southern food. And that's the thing I'm always expressing. We can't put Southern food in a box, right? Like Southern food is so vast. It's about the land, the water, all of that, right?
If you're willing to learn, it's a big old history lesson too. And if you look at each territory in the South and who was there and what was the Indian tribe there eating, we talked about this last week on the show. People have to be honest about the fact that the colonizers would have starved to death had it not been for the slaves and the indigenous people, because the indigenous people really knew how to work the land, and the slaves knew how to, really
make it taste good
and make it taste
do
good
what it do.
and make it do what it do. So had it not been for those two people, they probably would have starved. I'm not really sure what they would have eaten, because they didn't really understand the nuances of this new world that they were in. So I think that whenever I'm talking to young chefs, and I don't know about you too, I'm like, don't judge it. You guys got to get a history book out and take that map and take it all the way back across the ocean and figure out what was going on over there. And then you're going to be like, oh, that's this. Oh, okay. And you're going to be able to connect those dots. And I think it helps us grow our foundation. Our flavor palette as chefs too, because there's we can go back and pull from some things that people have forgotten about.
I know, but I remember that time when I wasn't as proud of my Southern roots, right? I remember, loving it when I was young and eating all the food and then going to culinary school and being told French food.
That's that shame.
French food is this, Italian food is this, Asian is this, and then, the lowest of the low is Southern, right? Like,
your American regional food cuisine course was just about as long as Black history in elementary and middle school. You're like, wait, did I miss it? Oh, shoot. Yeah. I went to the bathroom and it was over.
Yes, but those things, and I remember growing up and people going, oh, do you cook Southern food? Do you cook soul food? Do you cook? And it would make me upset, because it was like the only thing they felt like I could do. And then, over time, it's funny because then that's all I wanted to cook, right? Like I wanted to know more. I wanted to understand it. And I wanted to share it, and I wanted people to value it, right? Like, me cooking this food doesn't make it less expensive. I'm using the same product as everything else, right? So, those are just things that we're continuing to have to educate people on.
And it's not like you can go into the grocery store and just buy oxtails for $5 anyway. Hello.
No. Okay.
I didn't even fry chicken until my second restaurant. Like, I refused. I was like, I'm not frying any chicken. No fried chicken. No, I'm not frying no chicken. I mean, y'all lucky y'all getting these greens, because I don't want to make that either. There's more.
I was doing everything else. I was rolling sushi. I was trying to be everything else.
Not making no fried chicken. So let's talk about this food industry in general, right? I think that we're all veterans, even though I look 12. I am a veteran.
I've been trying to go see where you was going with it, but
girl, I've been at this for a long time, because Black don't crack, okay? I'm a lot older than I look. I have 23-year-old children, okay? I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing it for 23 years, since the first one was born. But how do you feel like the food industry has changed, specifically for women? We kind of talked about this in the pre-show. We've been dealing with Kansas City. There's been a lot of, women, especially industry women, feeling empowered to kind of speak out about the work environment. And people have asked me all the time. I have two daughters, one's 20, one's 7, and they're like, "Don't you want them to follow in your footsteps?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. This is not a safe industry for young women, and no, I do not want. Because I will go to jail. I will go to jail. I will go to jail. So no, I don't want. I want to live and be a free citizen. So no, I don't.
Yeah.
I want to find something else to do."
Yeah, I feel like the industry definitely, I always tell the story of, when I was when I was just cooking at IHOP, I didn't even know anyone that looked like me, doing what I wanted to do. I didn't know one chef. All the way in culinary school, I didn't know a Black chef. I didn't know a restaurant owner. And so I think, again, because we are having representation, things are starting to change. I think people are speaking up and being bold, telling their stories, and all of that's equating to a little bit of change. There's so much more that needs to happen. There's so much more change that needs to happen. But, I think what we can do is make sure that we create the environment so that one day you feel comfortable telling your little girl this is a safe haven for you, right? So,
Right.
like for me, in my establishments, it's very important that we have that. And then any place that I am working with and that where I'm talking to young folks, those are the things that I want them to understand, that we have to make a better industry and we have to leave it better than when we found it, right? So like that's on us too.
I agree. I agree, because it's not, people are like, is it legislation? I was like, no, it's not an outside thing. This is like the dirty bedroom in our house, and you don't have somebody come in from the outside and clean up your dirty bedroom. You have to kind of clean and organize that up yourself.
And let's just be real, legislative don't change nothing inside.
No. It's just gonna put some paint on the house, and it's still gonna look trashy on the inside. I think that too. So now that you're going to have 3 restaurants, and there's, independent restaurant legislation happening and going on. And, as a seasoned restaurateur, we talked about this, right? They are currently right now in Congress deciding how valuable our staff is, how valuable, what, when we were all holding each other's hands 6 months ago and braiding each other's hair and singing Kumbaya about how essential and how wonderful grocery workers and restaurant workers were, and how we couldn't have survived this pandemic without.
We didn't do that in Florida.
Oh, well, y'all are in space.
I didn't do it in Texas either, but okay.
And now we're at this point where they've forgotten all this like goodwill, and now they're like, well, I think 15 is too much. And I think that this is too much. And restaurants won't survive if they go to a non-tipped model. I mean, what are your thoughts on that as a restaurant owner?
Those are great questions. So, I am a little bit flexed on some of it. I think that I need more information. I think that I need to understand what exactly is government going to do, because I feel like a lot of load is getting put on small businesses, and I don't think that's okay. Our margins are so small already, so I am worried about the fact of moving. My issue becomes if I put everyone at 15 and that's the start, where do we go from there? And the people who were already the higher earning people, now am I supposed to move them up because everyone else is making the same?
Right.
So
it's complex.
It's flawed a little, and then the issue of like insurance, like, so now any idea of insurance is gone.
Right.
And this living wage situation. So I need to understand where's the give and take in this, because it feels as a restaurateur that I'm the one,
as an independent,
I'm the one that they keep taking from, and expecting to just, shell it all out. Now, if on the back end, tax wise, I had this cut and this break, and then I had room to make it up here, then these are things that, we can definitely work out. And I'm just a little bit worried that, what does that do to the business? So for instance, if it's a shack, I could see that being a model that could work for a shack, because we already pay well. And everyone there's not really, servers or anything like that. So everyone is already, that would be a little bit of a boost.
Right.
Maybe, tips would be taken away at that point, because if you're really looking at what they make plus with tips, we're already really there.
Right.
So we would just have to figure that part out. But when you look at Root Southern Table, and I have so many people in the industry, especially servers, who are very worried about it, quite frankly, because they're going from making 80,000 to, if you put them at $15 an hour, they're back at $35,000-$40,000, and they've created households living through being a server, career server. So I just feel like minimum wage is ideally supposed to be, this is what they say, a stepping stone, right? But they're not really moving from that. And how do we go from 7 something to 15? That is a huge amount.
Right.
Right, because and the rationale is, well, we should have been done it. And I'm like, I feel like the restaurant industry is like Tyrese. Like, what more do you want from us? Like, what are y'all asking us to do? Like, we all are collectively crying. Like, what more do you possibly expect, independent restaurants to do? Because in the same article that this comes out, then turn around and Walmart is saying, we're moving to self-checkout in all stores. And so people are like, oh my God, that's horrible. I was like, the cost of green onions is the cost of green onions. Okay. You are not going to go into the store and pay $4 for a sprig of green onions.
Unless you're in the Caribbean. I'm sorry.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, these people are in Walmart throwing bread because they have to wear a mask, okay? Now, imagine if they hike up the prices of the food to cover these additional labor costs.
Well, that's what we'll have to do at that point. Everything would be, it would trickle down, right? Like, that cost has to go somewhere. And so at the end of the day, that's what we're going to have. And it's going to happen all across the board for us to purchase our things. I'll give you an example. When I opened, chicken, the price of chicken for me for a case was $65.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went to about $75. Then it went to about $80. Then it went to $100. And I was like, oh my gosh, right now it's at $120.
Yeah. What about the price of gloves? Gloves are $100 million.
Wait, before you get to gloves, though, the chicken is getting smaller as the price goes up.
Right. And as it goes up, it looks more and more desperate. You're like, is there any meat on this?
It looks more and more desperate.
Yes. Where is the meat? Raising the price, and there's literally less meat on the chicken every time it comes.
For the chicken and also for the eggs. I was baking the other day, and I said, there is no way these are large eggs. They were extra small eggs in large containers.
Wow.
The baker can't make your cakes. That means I'm adding more eggs to my recipe. It's throwing my ratio off.
Sure.
Same for you and your chicken. If you're saying, hey, I'm doing chicken wings tonight, and you're supposed to get 6 beautiful big chicken wings, and they're coming out this big, and now you're giving them 12.
Yeah.
And you're still losing money because you're paying $120 a case.
Right. And we ain't got on gloves yet. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I want people to understand when they're watching this, we're not advocating that there shouldn't be a living wage. We absolutely believe that there should be, but we're also just trying to talk through these nuances. It's very easy to have this conversation about $15, $16 an hour when you're an Amazon, a Costco, Shake Shack, a Darden restaurant group.
Larger corporations.
Those people, it's a easy, like, come on. But when you're looking at the mom and pop, the micro restaurants, the small independent restaurants, which, to be honest, those are the restaurants that directly impact the economy of the communities in which they reside, are getting taxed. And to the point that a lot of them are not going to, now they done already got through COVID, and now here we come slapping them with something else. How do we expect these smaller businesses to survive this?
And I don't think that you're giving us a plan, right? Like it's just pushing the buck, And so to me, that's the problem. It kind of, and I hate to go there, but it reminds me of Governor Greg Abbott just saying we're going to be at 100% occupancy. We're going to remove the mask, but then there is no repercussions for, a business that is trying to do things their way, right? Like, so now if you think about the businesses that will have to deal with all of the people coming in who don't want to wear the mask.
Right.
And now we have the conflict that we now have to work with, and then you have this just line of separation of arguments and just so much going on the people who want to wear it and the people who don't want. And now it's just, we're back at kind of where we were before.
Right.
And it's just, you didn't give them a plan. You just put out something, right? You didn't get the schools vaccinated.
It almost feels like
workers.
they woke up and was like, what's today? Yeah, I think the pandemic's over next week.
No, he woke up. No. He woke up and said, okay, I'm taking too much heat about what happened with these grids. Let me throw a bone and put this out there, and then, they'll be all right.
He's about to get some heat from that too. So it really, he wasn't thinking.
No, he's, money, politics.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So to the gloves, I also have on my page, Chef Judy said glove prices are ridiculous.
They are.
It has you wanting to wrap your fingers in Ziploc bags and saran wrap, okay? If I could get a glove, just put some Ziploc bags on it or some saran wrap.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and in the amount of times we're changing, we're just throwing. Oh gosh, I don't even want to think about what that does with the plastic. I mean, it's just
the environment. Yeah, that's scary too. And it's like I think that as we're looking and reimagining the food industry, the thing that always like keeps popping into my head is expectation. Expectation. I think that people have got to change their expectations. Consumers have to change the expectations, and I almost want to say go easy on us a little bit, because we're not in an environment anymore where restaurant owners can be expected to make $1 out of 15 cents. Mm-hmm. Like it's just not happening. There's not even 15 cents anymore. We literally have 2 cents. And we can't to expect this industry to continue to perform on these teeny tiny margins and pay people and now have all these COVID protocols and all this stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And you have the same people who say, well, I'm spending my money with them, and so you just it just feels sometimes like you just, up against the wall, right? You're out by yourself and you're trying to figure it out for your business. And I think even outside of just restaurants, everyone who has a business, right? We're all trying to figure out how do we just make it a little bit further. And then it's like, okay, if I can just get to next year, if I can get to next month, if I can get to tomorrow, you know what I mean? Right. And deal with day by day. Because I mean, it can be rough. There's just so much happening.
Before COVID wasn't easy.
Right.
And now you have COVID and it's just like 100 times worse, not worse, but it's not easy at all.
Sure.
And I don't think our customers or our consumers are really thinking when they go home, they're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I'm over this COVID. I'm over this. I'm over that. But they're not thinking about the people who own the small businesses, that they're feeling the same way on top of all the other stress of having a business.
Sure. Yeah, that never leaves. That feeling never ends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's, because it's the last few minutes and, people would probably give us hate mail if we don't talk about TV. Everybody who's been on television, we have to talk about TV. So before we even get to the TV shows, when you signed up for the experience, did it even come across your mind that it would have this impact on your career? I did it for myself personally. I had a baby and I just felt like, I have unreasonable personal expectations. So I felt like a has-been and I just needed to do I have problems. I need to go to therapy.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I felt from long time ago that I would do something with TV. I didn't know when. I didn't know how. I had no person that I knew. And then when I got the call to go on Top Chef, because I didn't try out. So it's just crazy how things work out, right? Like it almost feels like what's meant to be is meant to be, right?
Right.
So when I got the call, I actually turned it down and I said that I wasn't interested. I was on the line working, and they were calling the restaurant, and I was in the middle of lunch. And I'm like, I don't do phone calls in the middle of lunch. Just tell them I'll call them back. And the hostess says, no, chef, you want to get this. This is Top Chef. I'm like, sure it is. Top Chef, call them.
I know this story.
Okay.
And if it is, don't they know it's lunchtime? It's a restaurant.
Girl, I wasn't even know ears in my head.
They don't care. I think they did that to a majority of us.
I'm like,
That phone call. I understand. I know this story.
I can't believe it. I answered like this. Hello.
Right. I asked them if I was being pranked. I'm like, is this a prank? Like, really?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I didn't really, what I didn't know was how quickly, that would work, right? Like, I didn't have any clue, how all of that would pan out. I just meant more in my life, right? Like that I would do something, but I definitely had no idea it would be in my 20s.
Didn't it feel real when you got the email and you saw the 28-page contract? It blew my mind.
I think I was still in a little la-la land.
Uh-huh.
It got real the day that I went and they started going through my stuff. And like, because you could only bring a certain amount of knives and certain things and nothing written down and like all of this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? Like I am here. Like this is happening.
Right.
When
I tried. They went through all my everything. They took my Bible, pictures of my family. I had like this doll that I slept with. I mean, I didn't care. I was 30-some years old. I did not care. I brought everything that could make me feel safe, right?
Sure.
They stripped it. And I called, and I was still in the hotel room, and I called my mom, and I said, you know what? You need to come get me. I was like, they have taken my recipes. I'm a pastry chef. Mama, what am I supposed to do?
You didn't know they were going to take your recipe?
No, they did not tell us because we were the first year of pastry chef.
Pastry. Yeah. Oof.
And, and being a little black girl pastry chef, the first black girl pastry chef for Top Chef.
Right.
I was like, I couldn't like now, I can't even think of the words. I was overwhelmed. I boom cried. And then she said, find you a piece of paper and write every recipe that you know down right now. And that's what I did. I stayed up all night before our first taping and then went to our house and wrote every recipe. It was 36 recipes that I had on my head.
Yeah, I actually have my notebook somewhere. I always say one day I'll write a book, but I have my notebook of all of like my journal. And I did a journal for maybe majority of season 7. I don't know how much, it was very sporadic for season 8, but I did a journal at the end of every day talking about how I felt, what happened, who getting on my nerve.
Right. Because they did.
I just Cutthroat wasn't that way. So it was like an in and out kind of thing. But I do remember calling her at 5 o'clock in the morning, California time. Yeah. I don't know where you were.
I was
Florida, Bahamas. So I'm calling 5 o'clock in the morning in LA, and she's in the Bahamas, and I'm like, I don't know if I was just like, get your shit together.
No, that's not right. I was in Seattle.
Okay. She was like, and don't you get on that TV show embarrassing me. I was like, okay, I think they're coming. I gotta go by. And then Linda was on. She was like, I'm a pray. And I said,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She told me to get my shit together. Linda started praying, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll be fine. This is fine. I know what I'm doing.
And then she went and she killed it.
It's still nerve-wracking. It's still nerve-wracking, and people don't understand. So now you have another show coming up, right? But you're not.
Yes, I'm judging.
Yes.
I'm judging Top Chef. And also I'm doing Top Chef Amateurs, which will come out after Top Chef. So we went to Portland, did both of those. It was great. Portland was very different at that time, so much going on, and just like being downtown and seeing it boarded up, and like that was just craziness.
That was all during all the riots and all of that's That was a heated moment.
It was a very heated moment. Yeah.
You know what? I know everybody loves you on Top Chef, but I love you on Bar Rescue because I love John Taffer. Is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
Because John Taffer is my spirit animal, and he says everything that I wish that I could say in the way that I wish that I could say it. I have to do that stupid sandwich thing where you say something nice, something rude, and something nice.
Something back nice.
Where John just says, "This is what it is."
Yes, like, he does. He's a master at that.
I'm just putting it out there. So is he like that in person too, or is it more?
Actually, he is a wonderful person. Like I enjoy working with him. So I've done, I don't even know how many, I guess it's been 6-7 years now I've worked Bar Rescue, and they're actually getting ready to start filming right now, next week, I think. And so, but John and I did a show, and it was with John Tapper and John Besh. It was called Hungry Investors, and we only did a season of it.
I remember
and
that one.
It was so bizarre. It was so crazy. But we went around to restaurants and we helped them, and it was fun. So being on the road, like full time, it was 3 months. We were all on the road, and it was crazy and wonderful, and made me go, I don't know if I want to do on the road like this. Any kind of renovation show. I don't think I want to do renovation shows. I want to do in studio show.
And you know what kills me about those shows though, and I'm the person like, don't watch them with me because I'm like, it's like my football. I'm like, well, what you ask him to come for then? Why are you arguing with the professional?
Seriously,
you do that. Why don't you have no customers? I'm like yelling at the in person, like, well, why are you on this show?
Why are you here and you want no help? Like, why did you put in the email for Bar Rescue to come out and you don't want to listen to nothing we say? Why are you drunk? You're losing money.
And the kicker is when they're always like, well, I'm not sure if they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Drama. That's what they want. It's TV.
It is, but you know what? I'll be honest.
I feel like those people were really like that. That's how they really felt.
That's where I'm going. They're very different. They're very different. And I have seen my share of very different people. They're not often in like city, city. It's usually like, if we're in Atlanta, it's like far out Atlanta, right? Where no one checks to check on the health department. There's nothing going on. You know what I mean? Like, and they are, I'm like, I just don't understand, because my thought process is, I'm behind and I can't pay my bills and I'm about to lose it all.
Right.
Why would I be drunk? Right. My house is I'm about to mess up my whole life for my whole family. And yet I am here drunk and giving away drink.
In the middle of the day.
And this is them. That's not us telling them. That is them. You're like, I don't understand it.
I think that's probably why I loved that show so much, because I never felt like it was like Kardashian, like for TV.
Sure.
I felt like there was probably some for TV aspects of it, but I really felt like those people were speaking to you with conviction when they were like arguing you down about why your menu wasn't right.
But that's why they were chosen, for their personality to make that show what it was.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but you know what? Sometimes I feel bad for them because they just don't know.
Right.
They really are as bad as they seem sometimes. And
that's a show that is like, this is what happens when family members are not honest with family members. Okay. Just because your niece makes a good peach cobbler doesn't mean tell her to go open a peach cobbler restaurant. Okay. Stop setting your.
You know what we hear the most? We hear the most was, I love going to the bar, so I decided to open a bar so I can have a place to bring all my friends. That is what almost every last one of them say.
No.
And then they're like, I don't understand why I'm not making money, because you and your friends drank up $200, $300 a night of alcohol.
All of it. And then one day they want to get serious, and then they want to get serious. They're funny.
Well, I love that show, and I hope to see you back on there soon. That's one of my favorites.
Will.
That one of my favorites. Okay, so before we go, this is the last-ish question.
Uh-huh.
If Tiffany today could talk to Chef Tiffany, who was filling out her paperwork and enrolling in culinary school, what would she tell her today?
I would tell young Tiff to learn as much as she can. Don't worry about all of the outside distractions. There's a quote that I love that says, "Be so good so they can't deny you."
Yes.
And I would just tell her to just concentrate on her craft and be bold. After that period of learning, make the steps, do what you need to do, but like, don't be this person that gets too set into the loyalty, right? Like working for this chef, doing. Young Tiff needed to learn more and get out there and experience more and really just absorb, right? Like that's what you do when you're young. And I feel like part of me, sometimes I ended up just like working with people longer than I probably should have. And it was for them and not for me. And so I would have her be a little bit selfish in that moment.
It's not selfish, it's selfful. It's so full.
Thank you.
I do not like that word selfish. I do not like that, because most of the time people are not being selfish. When people call you selfish is when you finally say, no, that's my boundary. And you're crossing it. And then all of a sudden you become the problem. But I wasn't the problem when you was all over in my space and I'm drawing lines and moving lines and drawing lines and moving lines and telling myself when I go into work, if he throws one more thing, I'm leaving. Then they throw it and you're like, I mean, one more thing after this one thing that he has.
I'm gonna leave. If he do this tomorrow. Right. If he do this tomorrow.
Right.
But you know, all that comes
to say something, and then I'm going, and then but after that one.
But all that comes with experience, because you said, you needed to learn more. You needed to get yourself out there more. With that experience of doing all that, that's when you create your boundaries and you become your soulful self. Selfful self, or whichever way you want to call it. And you're trusting your own process, and you're listening to your inner self. I think sometimes we talk ourselves out of so many things.
100%.
So many things, and that self-confidence and building that self-confidence is very, very needed, especially as us, as black, as brown, yellow, green people. all combined.
And women.
Women.
And I think for me, like prior, if I'm wanting to make my thing that I would tell myself, women's related, it would be, you don't have to, put up that wall. And that, I really hate that in the beginning of the career, I had that very tough exterior, very serious, very focused, very this, very that. And it was really hard. And I feel like maybe I may have missed out on connection or relationship, because I was like, this is a wall, there's a wall, and there's a wall, and you're not getting behind either of them. And if you actually get behind this one, then there's another one. And I would, I don't want to, I think that sometimes as women, when we're in this career, we get so hard. And I wish that I would not have, early in my career, let that hardness come in.
But we're taught that.
And you're almost, that's what you have to be, right? Like even to the point, like getting into the culinary, you have to be hard, right? You have to have this, you have to be able to stand that. I remember how many times I went in the bathroom and cried, right? And threw water on my face so that you couldn't see my tears, because dare not look like I'm sensitive, right? And then walk back out there and work that shift, and you don't know nothing ever happened.
Right. But now I can't date because they're like, you're so indifferent. And I'm like, I'm not. I've just conditioned myself not to show emotion. I don't know.
But don't you think now it's just like, man, if I hold in one more thing, I'm going to explode.
Yeah, you gotta let it out.
You gotta let it out. It's not healthy.
And learning how to let it out in a productive way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just
and even for me with my staff, because I'm very vocal, and I'm one of them that I very well can holler. Like I was raised in that. Like it's comfortable. You did something I don't like, I'm telling you It is what it is.
Right.
So, but there are times, and I'm realizing the generations that are coming up, they don't respond well to that. If I start screaming and talking and going and da da da, next thing you know, I can't get one plate out of them. I mean, they didn't broke all the way down. And I'm like, what is going on? You know, and then
no plates going out. People are crying. They taking days off because they need moments to get it together. And you're like,
but the industry is the way that this new generation was raised up in the culinary was completely different than the way we were raised in the culinary.
Right.
I mean, I was raised in an all-white male industry.
And you better not be in there crying.
English.
Yeah.
You better not be in there
crying. And that, no English, right.
Mm-hmm. No English.
But you know, I feel like in general, they're raising up kids now where everyone gets a medal type of that kind of situation. So
my children, I'm the mother who's like, no, thank you. We lost. Right. And we won't be taking any consolation prizes because over here, we know about winning and losing and they need to take losses. And they're like, you're so mean. I'm like, no, we don't, I don't want no participation medal. Don't even give them a certificate. They did not do their best.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Because you weren't raised that way.
No.
I wasn't raised that way.
There are lessons that you learn on both sides of that. Yeah. In the winning part of that, in the not doing your part, and in losing, right? Like there are lessons that you learn. And I think just like in the kitchen, you learn when you have a great night, you know when you messing up in that chef, and you got to be able to handle all of those things. And even as the person in charge, you then now have to figure out the best ways to motivate your team so that you can get what you need out of them, right?
I think because what they forget, because they're so singularly focused, so me focused, what I need, what I have, what I forget. And you know, what I used to tell my staff is that the restaurant might as well be called Chef Shanita's, okay? Even though it's called something else, because they're not going on Yelp. They're not going on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and talking about you, sir line cook. What they're doing is attacking me personally and my brand. And when we can't get ourselves together out here, just like you all are feeling the pressure because I'm talking to you, I now have to gather myself and go out to a table and have a conversation with a paying customer.
Yeah. Because you overcooked their fish.
Right. Yeah. Not once, but twice or whatever you did. And now you're upset because I'm upset. I literally just got yelled at a table in the middle of a whole entire dining room. That doesn't
ask me why I had a restaurant. Because I can't cook. Because you messed up the fish.
Well, I have a comment here, you guys. I have a comment, and then Rita says they are not raised anymore. They are just there.
Ooh.
Which is kind of, you know, I think now because of COVID too, and the way that the industry is majorly changing, and maybe it's just me. I'm over 50 now, and my thought process is completely different than how it used to be at 30 and 40 years old.
You used to love to make people cry.
Yeah, I did. I didn't care.
That one.
Because you wasn't doing what you were supposed to do.
That's my button. Every day I hate
it. About it.
Every day.
But now I don't care. I didn't care. I need you to do your job, and I need you to learn it the right way. That was then. But now I feel that, you know, I just kind of step back. I'm going to let you fall and bump your head. And then you're going to come to me and tell me what you learned. You know, and maybe that's just me at this age. Right. Back then, it wasn't that way, you know?
Yeah.
So,
it wasn't. I remember, this is funny about her. So this is like years later.
About me.
I went to help her open the chocolate factory in the Bahamas. And
it was not a vacation. That was not a vacation.
I'm not talking. I know it wasn't a vacation. Okay. It should have been. I didn't go to the beach, y'all. She made me work and I got sick. Anyways.
Anyway.
So we have a rhythm because we worked together for a long time. And I just know how she works. She needs tea in the morning and the prep list is not optional. Like she didn't put that up for shits and giggles. It meant that all of that needed to be done.
Before we go home.
Before you go home. So one of the girls her job was to take the brownies out of the pan, put the ganache on them, and cut them. That's with the amount that we had, it was probably a 30-minute 45 minute task.
Less than that.
Like an hour and a half.
She's giving her the grace.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be nice because she's new. Hour and a half later, she calls me upstairs. She said, if you don't go down there and tell her to get finished with those brownies, we're going to have a problem. And I was like, okay. So I go down there. I'm like, do you like working here? She's like, yeah. I was like, then I suggest you get done with these brownies in the next 15 minutes because you're about to not have a job. She was like,
I was young then. I was a young Erica. I mean, I was just in my 30s and I was just loving life.
There when I went back in December for Christmas, that employee
was gone.
She didn't make it.
Yeah, I was telling a joke. I said, you know, for when we open Ruth Southern Table, I'm just gonna do the method. I'm coming tap on shoulders. When I tap on your shoulder, just exit left.
Going out the door.
Yeah. Let's not even talk about it. You know, and I know it's time to go.
Sometimes you just don't have the time for that when you're trying to get things put together and you need to move forward and you know what you want to showcase.
Yeah,
and if they don't understand your vision, then they have to move on.
They do.
Yeah.
And there's a place for them somewhere. It's just not with us in that moment, you know? Yeah.
Right. And they're not going to get a gold star. You don't don't put them down. You should probably not say you worked here. Because if they call and ask, I'm hanging up on them.
Oh my God.
Click. No, you can't. Don't hire them. Well, it's been fun. Thank you so much for talking. Yes. In our perfect world, one day this podcast will be a road show and we actually get to come on location and have these conversations with our chef friends all over the world. But, you know, it's always nice for me to showcase, you know, what we're doing, because sometimes I feel like we don't get the showcase in a nice, comfortable environment where people can see that we're people.
Right.
Yes.
We're people. So you guys, thank you guys for watching. We will be back. I'm going to get it right next Wednesday.
There we go.
6:30 p.m. Central for our next episode of our Women's History Month at the Conversation. So thank you guys for watching.
Thank you, Chef.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.